In the shadows of 1890s Manila, whispers traveled from taverns to workshops, from humble shacks to printing presses. The Katipunan, a secret society sworn to end more than 3 centuries of Spanish rule, was growing in strength. By 1896, thousands of men and women had pledged their blood to the cause of independence. But revolutions often fall not to the strength of their enemies, but to betrayal from within. And it was one man's loose tongue, Teodoro Patino, that lit the fire which changed Philippine history forever. Patino was an ordinary worker at the Diario de Manila printing press, where Katipuneros quietly printed pamphlets, membership forms, and coded messages for the society. To the untrained eye, it was a place of ink and paper, but for the revolutionaries, it was the heartbeat of their underground struggle. Patino himself was a Katipunan initiate, but he was young, restless, and hot-tempered. On the night of August 19, 1896, after a bitter quarrel with a fellow worker, Apolonio de la Cruz, anger consumed him. He stormed off, muttering threats that he would expose everything. That evening, Patino sought refuge in the Mandaluyong orphanage, where his sister Honoria Patino lived as a boarder. His emotions boiling, he poured out his secret. He spoke of the Katipunan's initiation rites, oaths signed with blood, skulls and swords as emblems of their cause. He described how conspirators plotted rebellion right in the printing press. Honoria, horrified and fearful for her brother's soul, told us Superior Sor Teresa, who wasted no time in alerting the parish priest, Fra Mariano Gil of Tondo. For the Spanish friars, long suspicious of unrest, this was the evidence they had been waiting for. By dawn, the wheels of repression were in motion. Civil guards raided the Diario de Manila press, arresting Patino's co-workers and seizing stacks of incriminating papers. The names of Katipuneros, the society's plans, and its very existence were now in Spanish hands. The authorities struck hard. Across Manila, suspected rebels were dragged from their homes, interrogated and tortured. Blood flowed not on the battlefield, but in cramped dungeons, where men were forced to betray their brothers under unbearable pain. When word reached Andres Bonifacio, the Supremo of the Katipunan, his heart sank. Years of careful secrecy had been undone by one of their own. But despair quickly turned to defiance. Bonifacio knew that waiting any longer meant death by arrest. If they were to perish, better to die fighting. On August 23, 1896, barely 4 days after Patino's confession, Bonifacio gathered his men in Pugadlawin. In a thunderous cry, they tore up their cedulas, the hated symbols of colonial subjugation. The revolution had begun, earlier than planned, bloodier than imagined, yet unstoppable. For Spain, Patino's betrayal was a gift. It allowed them to strike before the revolutionaries were fully armed. Thousands were imprisoned, many were executed. Even men like José Rizal, who was not a Katipunero, were swept into the maelstrom of Spanish vengeance. For the Katipunan, Patino became the Judas of their movement, the one whose tongue unleashed suffering upon his brothers. Yet history is never simple. Was Teodoro Patino a traitor driven by spite, or merely a frightened young man who never understood the weight of his words? What is certain is this: his betrayal forced a nation's hand. The Philippine Revolution burst forth in fire and blood because one secret could not be kept. And from that betrayal rose the first great cry for independence.